Thanks everyone for the opportunity to present an update on GEOBON and as a whole, but also I hope to focus this presentation on recent and upcoming progress and opportunities of our global network within the Americas specifically. My name is Mike Gill. I'm the current co-chair of GEOBON. I also am the director of the Biodiversity Indicators Program at NatureServe. I'm based in Nova Scotia in Eastern Canada. And my main focus of activity is on the design and implementation of interoperable biodiversity observation systems. And this has included work in the Arctic, in various subnational programs around the world, but also specifically within North America. I've recently been working with partners in Colombia to establish a national BON or biodiversity observation network there, as well as we have a project which I'll briefly touch on in Peru, Bolivia, and Ecuador, focused on the tropical Andes. Also, my work at NatureServe is focused on the development of automated workflows for the development of biodiversity indicators and the development of visualization platforms for these indicators that we're using to facilitate or streamline nations reporting to various conventions like the Convention on Biological Diversity. So, as co-chair of GEOBON, just a little bit of background on what GEOBON is. This is a global network focused on improving the acquisition, coordination, and delivery of biodiversity observations and related services to users, including decision makers and the scientific community. We've been focused on creating interoperable observation systems, or as mentioned, BONs or biodiversity observation networks, that employ and contribute to the development of standards and interoperable systems for creating, curating, analyzing, and using biodiversity observations. Over the past decade, the global network has gone from an idea to a formalized concept to really a global operational network. We currently have over 1,229 registered members, with more added every day. These members come from 110 countries and 819 institutions. And the membership includes the major space agencies such as NASA, European Space Agency, JAXA in Japan, and others. Key biodiversity institutions in various countries such as Columbia's Humboldt Institute, and many, many different leading universities who are advancing much of the theoretical concepts for GEOBON. And now the way GEOBON works is we're tackling the challenge of improving the quantity and quality of biodiversity observation data globally by taking both a top-down and a bottom-up approach. You can think of the top-down approach as through the establishment of what we call the essential biodiversity variables, which serve as a framework for structuring interoperable observation systems. And on the bottom-up end, through the establishment of operational BONs, we use the BONs to actually employ this framework, but also to contribute and test it to improve its relevance and application at national and even subnational scales. And the BONs really are what we consider to be the engines of the network, in that they're operational and they improve data collection, management, analysis, and reporting on biodiversity trends. And on the right-hand side here, you can see sort of our messy organizational structure. With the global network, we had to come up with something that was a balance between being fairly efficient, but broken up enough to cover sort of the main thematic areas. So we have 7 working groups working on the development and definition of the essential biodiversity variables and on the establishment of observation systems. And we have a number of different thematic and national and regional networks, thematic ones focused on marine systems, freshwater systems, and even soil. So in terms of our focus, we're really pushing, as mentioned, towards informing more effective and timely biodiversity conservation decisions at all scales, from local to global and back again. So our big focus is on improving the currently highly biased data coverage. So right now, of course, the best data out there, which isn't very good, is in North America and Europe, and it's largely focused on species or groups that we can see, such as mammals and birds. And so we're trying to come up with a much better balance spatially, temporally, and taxonomically in terms of biodiversity data coverage. And with that, create the pipelines for building sort of next generation biodiversity time series indicators and even predictive models and scenarios. And we're working with the Intergovernmental Panel on Biodiversity Ecosystem Services to do this. And our focus is also on really taking all of those advances and creating capacity building pathways for nations, for organizations, and even local communities to establish or enhance their own biodiversity observation networks. So through the lead of the Humboldt Institute in Colombia, we have a platform called GEO in the Box, which is a toolkit of all the latest standards and data collection protocols, analysis tools that exist at your fingertips. And what we're trying to do there is lower the threshold for an organization, a community, or a nation to build or enhance their own biodiversity observation system. And by using these available tools, it's sort of a way of us achieving some interoperability globally. We're also designing various manuals. We have manuals around how to use remotely sensed data to derive essential biodiversity variables, or what we call EBVs, and also even just how you actually establish a network. And we also have specific manuals on data collection standards and protocols. And we also work directly by bringing experts to work in partnership with various nations and countries. So as mentioned, we're working globally. We're bringing global experts into the tropical Andes to build a tropical Andes observatory. We've brought in lots of key folks to both work with and learn from Colombia. And in fact, actually, Colombia really is a leader, and a lot of the experts in Colombia have been helping build the global system, and really other nations have been benefiting from that. And finally, we're bringing in the tools for accessing the EBV data through our EBV data portal and building sustainable and repeatable workflows. And this is just an example or a small set of some of the products that I just mentioned, such as data standards that are being employed by the Global Biodiversity Information Facility, our source book on using remotely sensed data for biodiversity observations, our data portal, and so on and so forth. And all of these are basically packaged and delivered through a design process. So we've published a 9-step design process that starts with defining the user needs for an observation network. So what are the key objectives or questions that need to be answered? And then using that as a filter to actually design a biodiversity observation system with the data collection protocols, the data management systems, the analytics, and the reporting to feed those needs. And that's essentially the core approach that we're taking in terms of designing these systems. And just in terms of profiling or focusing on success stories, I wanted to turn that attention towards what we're doing specifically in the Americas. Now, actually, the first one is our Marine Biodiversity Observation Network, and this is a global network. However, it's really been funded and supported heavily by several institutions in the United States, so NOAA, BOEM, and NASA, who have been basically piloting using the latest technologies such as satellite data, ocean buoys, even automated eDNAers, to really come up with ways that we can better and more efficiently monitor marine biodiversity systems. And by doing that, export those techniques and those protocols and tools to our global network. And an example of this export is through one of our regional groups, the Asia Pacific Biodiversity Observation Network, is now adopting the GEOBON standards, which have been applied in the United States in coastal areas that you can see here, these national marine sanctuaries, and applying that approach to the Western Pacific. And so again, we pilot in different parts of the world and then replicate and export. Another key success story in the Americas really involves the global leadership that we've received from Colombia and its Humboldt Institute. Colombia is leading on the design and build of a national biodiversity observation system, and in so doing, testing the relevance and the application of our essential biodiversity variable framework in that context. And this is supported nicely through a number of funded projects from a NASA call, as well as from USAID. And in turn, Humboldt Institute is also leading the development, as mentioned, of GEO BON in the Box, which, as I've already mentioned, is an online library of tools for biodiversity observations, and it's found in Spanish, Portuguese, and English to date. Now, moving to opportunities in the Americas, I wanted to profile a fairly new initiative. It's under our Marine Biodiversity Observation Network, and it's called Pole to Pole of the Americas. And this is an initiative to establish standardized, simple, latitudinal field data collection techniques that will give us the power to better monitor and understand regional marine and coastal biodiversity trends. This network is being established throughout the Americas and will focus on training, data sharing, and visualization platforms for accessing the resulting data. The network is somewhat well represented in South America, but we need and welcome more engagement in Canada, the US, Central America, and the Caribbean, and we hope that this body and forum can be a means to promote that. Furthermore, we have a new hemispheric-wide initiative which is just getting underway called America's BON. And this will operate as an umbrella regional network for GEOBON for the Western Hemisphere, which brings together terrestrial, freshwater, and marine biodiversity monitoring efforts all the way from the Arctic down to the southern tip of South America, allowing again for a more interoperable approach to better detecting, understanding, and predicting biodiversity change, especially in the context of large-scale drivers such as from climate change. This network is in its earliest days, but much progress is being made to date in formulating an extensive network and beginning to define its specific mission, vision, and goals. We'd very much like to see this regional network connected with the AmeriGEOS regional initiative for obvious reasons, and we very much welcome support and ideas from all of you on how to take this from concept to reality over the next few years. And related to that is, as mentioned, a new funded initiative from funding sources in these three countries, Peru, Ecuador, Bolivia, as well as in Spain and Germany and the European Union, to establish a tropical Andes biodiversity observatory in these countries. And we're applying the GEOBON principles to create a structured and shared approach to monitoring biodiversity in this critical area of the planet, this megadiverse region, and produce more fit-for-purpose data to facilitate more timely and effective conservation decisions in that part of the world. And finally, after myself and my other co-chair, Professor Enrique Pereira in Germany, finish co-chairing later this year, we've both been at it since 2014. It's really time now to move the leadership of GEOBON onwards and upwards. And we're really thrilled to announce the confirmation of a successful bid for a new secretariat in Montreal at McGill University, and hosted and co-chaired by Dr. Andy Gonzalez. And he'll be consuming the co-chair role in January 2021 and activating a secretariat there in Montreal. And this is really great news for the network, as we offer the new secretary will offer a strong focus on activities in the Americas, with new resources and new ideas. And we're currently in a process for seeking candidates for another co-chair from a different part of the world, offering a complementary set of skills and experiences to what Andy will bring to that position. So with that, we've learned a great deal through the past decade in the establishment and operation of this global network. We've made some great and purposeful strides to go from concept and theory to application through the establishment of a network of bonds. And this has been particularly true in the Americas, with significant activity and leadership from partners in Latin America, the United States, and Canada, as indicated. And in the next 6 years, we will continue to shift from theory to practice through the accelerated establishment of operational networks that are in part tailored to serve global, regional, and national policy needs. Those policy needs would include feeding the new targets to 2030 for tracking the post-2020 global biodiversity frameworks implementation, as well as the related biodiversity sustainable development goals. Finally, we very much welcome expanded engagement and support from AmeriGEOS in our efforts in the Americas, and specifically with these mentioned key initiatives. So with that, thanks for your time and happy to answer any questions.